And I'm Bill Benedict, my wife Lisa. Gentleman was asking us how we met. I was telling him I was born and raised in Iowa, but I met a Wisconsin girl at mortuary school of all places, and that's what kind of brought us here to Western Wisconsin, and we love it here. Well, she was born and raised here, I'm sure she does, but I love it here, so yeah.
Absolutely. So we always tell everyone, and we just said we met and fell in love in mortuary school, so.
It didn't seem weird until we wrote it in the first baby book. Yeah.
So we're glad to be here, and we're glad to be a part of the community as well. So that transaction happened last June, the end of June, and so we've been a part of the community for the last year, and been very good. So it's been a good transition for us, and we're happy to be serving the community, Pierce County and St. Croix County as well. So both Bill and I had been long-time employees with the O'Connell Funeral Home and Family in Hudson and Baldwin. So I graduated mortuary school with Mike O'Connell, and Bill worked with us for many years.
I've worked there. You started in late 2005, and I started in 2006. I have operated the crematory for O'Connell's during my time with them. And now that I'm down here, I'm not as day-to-day operations, but still go and operate our crematory any opportunity I can get. It's important for people to know that we serve, families that we serve, that we have our own crematory, and their loved one doesn't leave our care. So that's part of it, is the people doing that are myself, our business partners, or our employees.
Yes. So yes, we do have our own crematory, and that is a big part of what we do, but also important as cremation has become more and more popular for people with funeral services and celebrations of life. So it is a big thing for families to know that their loved one stays in our care. So when a death occurs, they come into our care and stay in our care at the funeral home. So there's a transfer to our Baldwin location where the crematory is at, but certainly is part of what we do. Yeah. So we both offer, so at our funeral homes here in Pierce County and St. Croix County, we offer traditional services as well as cremation services. So meeting with families on a day-to-day basis when a death occurs, also at need or pre-need basis. So when people are thinking of planning ahead or pre-planning, that's a large part of what we do as well.
So by a show of hands, how many of you have expressed your wishes verbally to your wife or your children? All right. How many of you have made an appointment to go into the funeral home and put your wishes down on paper? And so I bring that up not to put you on the spot or make you feel bad, but to let you know this is what we deal with often with families. Now, some families come in, and for some people, it's a very uncomfortable topic for obvious reasons. It's something they don't feel comfortable talking about. And sometimes it's them telling their children and their children saying, I don't want to hear any of this. Oh, I can't think of that. And other times it's their children dragging them in, going, you need to get this down on paper. We need to know. And so that's where we come in, and we can help ask questions, plan services. Not all funerals are held at a church. Most are. But I've actually been a part of helping a family. They held a service at a racetrack. Some families will do it at a park, at a family farm. Many different things can have different meanings to people. So that's where we can help plan something that's meaningful to you or your loved ones.
I think let's think about our life and how we plan out so many things today. We plan out our educations and weddings and housing and families and our children's education, anniversaries and celebrations, retirements. So why not plan your funeral in advance? So the advantages of pre-planning your funeral in advance just allows that personalization. It offers you a personal touch. Allows you to choose how you want your life to be remembered and how you want your life to be celebrated. So if you have any particulars or thoughts on what you would want, it allows you to express that and get that in writing. The independence too allows you to give you personal wishes and carried out after you have passed away. So maybe yours are different than a spouse or a loved one, and you want to make sure that what you want is carried out. So we can get that written down for you.
The bad example I'll give you, I used to work at a casket company, and I delivered a casket one weekend to a funeral home, and it was a pink casket. And in my mind, that's a lady's casket. Well, when I got to the funeral home, the director said, yeah, this is for this gentleman. And I'm like, and he goes, well, they said they wanted the same thing for him that they did for Mom. And I'm just putting myself in the shoes of the gentleman who's going in there going, I bet you he wished he would have had a say and spoke up. So things like that do happen from time to time. So yes, the independence part, everybody's unique. That's all important to be reflected in your services.
And that's where we see funeral service changing today. We're getting away from that traditional. Many families, although we do a lot of traditional services with a casket and earth burial, we see a lot more of people wanting to do personalization and celebration of life. So more of a party. And we're seeing that more and more. So where the focus really is on getting people together and personalizing, having something that's meaningful. And so when we do sit down with families, that's our focus, whether it's at a pre-need or at-need basis, is what's meaningful to you. Because that's really about your life, your reflection and how you want to be remembered and what would be important to you. So whether that's a wine toast at the end of the night, or whether you want all of your collectible tractors there, or if you were a scrapbooker and you want your items out, whatever it is that's important to you, to have that there, to be remembered for those things. And also people want to even write their own obituaries down. So that independence of kind of choosing what was important and meaningful for you. And also is convenience. Just to have those things taken care of, then when you pass away, it offers convenience for your family just to make a phone call and everything is kind of set in motion. We take it from there and help them. It doesn't mean that people don't have a say, your children or your spouse don't have a say in things. We still want to make sure that they're involved because we realize how important that is to have them involved and how that takes steps into the grief process ahead. So we do still have them involved with many of the things and planning out when the services are and how we can make things meaningful for them.
Because as many people will say, the funeral is for the living. And it is. And we've had many people come in, and it's usually guys. They'll pick on the guys in the room. Well, I don't want anything for me. Well, God forbid, if something happened to one of your loved ones, would you want to see and be a part of their service? Well, yeah. Okay. And so that's why it is important to include the living, but also have it be reflective of your wishes. So they kind of work hand in hand.
Absolutely. And I always tell families too to think about when you're thinking about what's important to you when you go to a funeral service. What is meaningful, or when you walk away from a service, what do you want to take away from that? If you see an urn up front, is that okay with you? Is it important for you to see the body? What's important for you? And it's a hard place to go. And many people don't think about pre-planning until an actual death occurs. And then we think about our own reality, our own, what's happening to us and how that affects us. Pre-planning also has no guessing games, so it kind of takes the burden off of our children, off of our family members, so we don't have to guess, gosh, what color casket would they want? What would they want for services? Would they want it all in one day? What kind of music? Would they want this picture or not that picture? Those kind of things as well.
I've had many people come out of church and say, I don't want that song at my funeral. Important to note, but there's more to it than just a couple songs at your funeral.
Or if you don't want green jello, then we need to know that. Also, pre-planning ahead or planning ahead has its advantages as well. It makes it tax exempt. So many people choose to prepay in advance because it sets you in a place if you ever go on medical assistance someday. Your funeral services will be set up irrevocably and looked at as a non-asset. So when you go on medical assistance, there's that 5-year look-back period. Those monies are looked at as a non-asset, and that's very important. And it does need to be set up properly, so we are aware of how that needs to be handled and the guidelines for that as well. So when you prepay, or if you have an insurance policy, and that's how we fund our funeral services, is with an insurance policy. that is taken care of for funeral services only. It's irrevocable. But it needs to be set up with a statement of goods and services. So the monies that you set aside have to match or reflect what your wishes are as well. So if somebody needs to look at that someday for medical assistance purposes, then they know where your money is tied into, what that is for. Yes.
If you prepay, are you locked in guaranteed price then, or is that not true?
Not necessarily, and the reason for that, I should say no, not necessarily, but no, because of the cash advance items. So there's many things that the funeral home takes care of that we can't guarantee, such as the obituary costs or the floral costs, cemetery costs. So there's things that we pay out at a convenience for families that we have no control over, so those prices may go up in the future. When you set aside money...
What I will say, some places will guarantee, but only their services.
Correct.
And then when they guarantee that, what that typically means is they're keeping all the interest from the money you've set aside. So there's two schools of thought on that, and but yeah, if we talk cash advance items, those are outside of our control.
Within your umbrella.
Yeah, because we don't control the cost of wholesale flowers, florist fees, obituary notices, things like that. So that we can't.
Do you figure that out then, like an amount for now, and maybe factor in inflation for an expected life term?
We would give you, if we sat down today, I would give you what I call a good faith estimate. This is, in today's terms, what I can tell you would be a fair price on those things that we're fully aware of. If somebody requested something out of the norm at their service and I have no idea what that costs, I couldn't give you a good faith estimate till I do a little more background in that. But some places will guarantee, and it's usually on their services. Here's our service charges. We guarantee those won't go up at the time of your passing, but they're keeping the interest your money earns in the meantime.
So that can be set up that way. But also when we do that, when we sit down with families, we do give them an estimate of their wishes. So whatever monies you set aside, if you choose to set aside money, you can pre-arrange your funeral services and not set aside money. So that's an option, but you can prepay in advance as well. So you can pay the full amount, and that money would go into a trust, and then that gains interest. So the interest that accrues throughout time then would go towards any price inflation, so those things that may go up. So that is the good thing about
How does that work then? Let's say you do it in Prescott, and then life takes you to Florida or California, and it's portable? Or?
It is portable. So if you were to be traveling and something should happen, or if you winter in Arizona or Florida and something should happen, certainly the family can call us directly and we would handle and help them get the body back, or the services or the cremation, whatever you're wishing for. But also it is portable. So if you decide, you know what, I'm moving to Arizona, you can transfer that to a funeral home in Arizona. So that does happen.
It would be illegal for us to put a dime of your money into our accounts.
Right.
That's why this policy is created in your name, and yeah.
Yep, so it's transferable. Yes, did you have a
Let's
question?
change, yeah, let's change in the funeral business that's allowed, because oftentimes, you know, you have one funeral home in one community. Now you have more of a chain process here, several different communities here. Well, what's changed in the business is allowed for more expansion or for change for one funeral home like yourselves being in many different communities.
I guess it was just an opportunity for us. So the O'Connells had served Hudson and Baldwin for many years and are very good people. And Bill and I had the opportunity to work with them and grow. And so when Scott was looking to make some changes in ownership, he had approached us, and we thought it would be a great opportunity for us to partner together. So that's why and how that formed. So that's where the O'Connell and the Benedict came into place. So
That's how we became a part of it, and O'Connell's, in wanting to expand, said, we're not sure we can do this without you, so we want to keep you on board, and this could be a way that we could partner together, and it was just a good fit.
Yep, absolutely. So they serve the St. Croix area, St. Croix County, and expanding areas. And much of our calls volume was also coming into Pierce County too. So we were serving families in this community as well. So it was just, it felt like a natural thing for us to further expand. So that's to answer your question.
Yes.
Any others? Yes.
People go to Mexico for vacations or they go to Europe. What happens if you pass away in a foreign country or on a cruise or something like that? How do you
It gets a
handle that?
little more complicated. We sometimes have to involve a local consulate office or possibly even the Department of State, like a Secretary of State's office, and in reaching other countries, finding out their guidelines for requirements of getting someone back into our care, but it could get a little more complicated when we involve a foreign country.
But we do assist with that.
Yeah.
So we've done that for Mexico a number of times as well. So everything has to be translated over, and then we have to follow their documentation and getting an individual back into the country. So we do help families with that portion of things. Yeah.
You just don't do it every day.
No. But travel away. We want you to travel.
Yeah.
That's part of life and enjoying your life, but also planning ahead. So that's the good thing. We want people to be able to experience those things and know that if you do have pre-plans or have your pre-arrangement with a funeral home that's secure and safe and confidential, you can make changes anytime you wish to as well. So we have families that pre-plan and come in and just want to update or review or add to things. And we do that at the convenience of their own homes too. So it doesn't have to be at the funeral home. If people feel uncomfortable about that, we can come to your home and sit down with you and talk about what's meaningful or best for you as well. So we both do that quite a bit, and it's just nice for us to be able to get to know people that way.
And the other part is we get to know people in a setting or environment they're more comfortable in. Coming into our office and being around caskets and urns might make them a little like, yeah. But going to their home, it's like sitting at someone's kitchen table and visiting with them, and by the end, we feel we get to know them better even, so.
How long did you start doing that?
What's that?
How long ago did you start doing and provide that service? You're basically making house calls.
Meeting with people to pre-arrange. Since the day I started as a funeral director, it's been an option, and for some people it's ahead of time. For some people it's because they've been given a terminal diagnosis and now they want to sit down and so all those situations vary, but sometimes people are just more comfortable meeting in their home instead of coming to our office.
And some people have mobility issues as well, so we want to
Yeah.
make sure that we can help them in that way too. So it might not just be that they're uncomfortable, because we want to make it a comfortable environment. It might be just mobility issues, or maybe they are bedridden and need us to come to them, and we're happy to do that. So sometimes it just works out best for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If,
Yes, sir.
if people can't afford this,
No, go ahead.
or can't afford a funeral, what kind of options do they have?
Yeah, so if somebody is on state assistance prior to passing away, then the states, they may be eligible for state assistance. So that's something that we help families out with at the time of death. So we call and see if they are eligible for some assistance. The state does provide some form of help for families. So then we're working with a budget that is doable for the family, and we want to make sure that we can offer, because every single person is entitled to a dignified service, and we want to make sure that we can offer that to everyone in the community. So the state does help out with some times, and sometimes it then falls on the responsibility of the family. Any other questions?
How competitive is it? I mean, is there a lot of competitive situations where people price it out? I can't imagine this is something that people price out.
Occasionally.
Yeah, it's like any other service option offered, people do sometimes check into that. So with the prices we're familiar with local other providers in our area, I guess we consider ourselves competitive. And but I guess we don't always focus on that. We try to focus on the relationship we have in the communities we're in, and work with people that come through our door, not kind of question them on why they're coming to us or how much they might have to work with, that kind of thing. We always want to work within their means and not focus on just that part of it, just being competitive with someone.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's really all about, for us, is compassion. Being good at what we do, and just sitting down and listening to folks and looking them in the eye and being able to empathize. Both Bill and I have lost our moms and have gone through losses ourselves, but just knowing that we can take care of a family well, and that's where we can pride ourselves. we want it to be meaningful because you can't do over a funeral. No do-over. So we want it to be meaningful. We want to help families out the best we can, so they are comforted. That's what we do, and we have to do it well. And if I'm sitting down across the table from you and you've just went through a loss, my heart is in there with you. I'm going to do everything I can to make that the easiest experience I can for you, and to make it meaningful. And that's what we're all about. We want it to be personalized and caring. And being a funeral director is not for everyone, I would imagine, but I know that both Bill and I, that's what we do because it's in our hearts. So
Serving people in a time of need, it's uniquely rewarding is the best way I can describe it. I had somebody say, well, do you like it? And it might sound bad to say I like it. We're both comfortable with it, and we put our hearts into it, and but it's likely not for everyone, but I use the example, we were picking up our oldest child from daycare one day, and our daycare lady asked us about our day, and all these kids were running around, and she's like, I couldn't do what you do, and with all those kids running around screaming, I reassured her, I couldn't do what you do. So, yes.
With the non-traditional services probably growing, with our facility in town, or your facility in town, do you see any like expansions there? It just seems like when I end up going there for a service, you're standing, or it's very small.
Sometimes when people choose to have a chapel service there because they don't have a church affiliation, and unfortunately in this day and age, the fastest growing religion is none. And sometimes our facility is being used for what it wasn't really intended for initially. It was probably more for visitations the night prior. And it does get cozy sometimes.
So yes, we would love to expand
Yes.
in the future and offer that for families. So we hope that good things can come in the future for sure.
Yes, sir.
When you're cremated, do you still buy a cemetery plot, or do most people also? Is that required?
That's a toss-up. I don't even have a number to give you, but as an example, met with a family who they said, well, we want to scatter. Okay. Do you know where you're scattered? Nope. Okay. But other people do choose to bury. Veterans are entitled to a plot at Fort Snelling for themselves, a spouse, and any dependent children. Some people, even husbands and wives, one will be buried, one will be cremated. Everybody has their own kind of approach, but if you choose cremation, you don't always have to bury the urn.
So do you guys do living urns? My wife wants to be a tree.
I have seen those. I have not had an opportunity to do one of those yet, but we know they are out there, and there's a couple companies we can contact as far as making that happen, yes.
What I've recommended to families too is with that option, kind of something similar, is to get a tree that's maybe a little more mature, so that if they have something that's a little smaller, or the little living tree, that if it weren't to mature and grow, to get something that might, implant it together.
Right, dead trees.
Absolutely, because yes, you don't want to be heartbroken and then your tree doesn't work out for you either. So yes, so we've done.
It is a unique concept, and there are like green cemeteries in different parts of the country. I don't know if we have one locally here, other than until we get to the cities. But they don't have headstones. They don't cut the grass. You just have a GPS locator that tells you where your loved one should be, and so. If you were to think about that 20 years ago, that was a far-fetched idea, and here today it's not maybe the norm yet, but it is something that's out there and prevalent in certain areas.
What's this be urban like for you here in Prescott community?
This is a great community, the great churches, the clergy have been more than willing to help us help families. Essentially, we serve families and they serve families, and so we work hand in hand with them. And sometimes we see some of the churches too often, they say, nothing personal, but we don't want to see it for a while.
Yes, everyone has been so welcoming for us, and so it's been a very good year, and we feel very welcomed by the community. So thank you. Yes.
What percentage of people are choosing cremation now over?
Right now, I would say it's in that 50% range, give or take a couple numbers, but I'm not a statistician either, but ballpark. That's about how many?
Are there rules on scatter? Laws?
If they catch it.
I can't give good legal advice. But depending on where, I would say yes. If you called the DNR and asked, can we scatter in the river? They would tell you absolutely not. You would probably be arrested. A lot of people in this part of the country choose to scatter at a family cabin, a family farm. Hunting ground is a popular one with hunters and that.
So yes and no.
Yeah, but as far as legalities of it, that's, like I say, I can't give good legal advice. But usually the people that do choose to scatter do it on a piece of family property.
Yes. Questions or concerns?
Well, now we can get into the 2-hour program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we realize there may be more questions than our little 20-minute conversation here today might cover. And, you know, we're always available, someone from our staff 24/7. So if other questions come up, you can always give a call. And I promise we're not out to get you, anything like that. Some people, you know, the one gentleman cracks me up when he comes in and you go to say hello or shake his hand and he says, "You're not going to get me today." So, but we are here to answer questions and help with anything that ever may come up
Yes, thank you.
to assist the family.
And we did bring information, so if you wanted any of our information, there's a pen and a letter opening there too as well. So it just talks about the advantages of pre-planning. Also, there is some information on planning out your services and then our business cards on the inside.
That's beautiful.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.